Okay, so what we're going to be reviewing now is how to graph parabolas using the vertex and then two other points in a t-chart. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is we need to start with our equation. Notice that I'm putting it to y equals because when it's y equals, that would be the graph of it. It basically means every point that makes that equation, which of course makes the parabola shape, is made up of a bunch of points. So if you don't remember, the very first thing we have to do is find the vertex. And this is one of the standards that you have to know how to find the vertex of a point. The way you do that is you take the opposite of b divided by 2a. So when we look at this here, we've got positive 8, that's our b, so the opposite of that would be negative 8. And because a is a 1, the number in front of x squared is 1, we end up with over 2. Negative 8 divided by 2 is negative 4. That is going to go in our middle spot. What we do then is we pick the two numbers right directly next to the vertex. So I pick negative 3 and negative 5 because if I think about a number line, those are the 2 points on either side of the number line. From there, we're going to go ahead and plug them in. Now you can do all three at once or you can do one at a time. I'm going to start with the vertex here. So all it is, I rewrote the equation and replaced each of the x's with the number itself, negative 4. And then I'm performing the operation. Negative 4 times negative 4 is 16. 8 times negative 4 is negative 32. And then you've got the plus 7 left over. When I simplify that, I get negative 16 plus 7, which is negative 9. That negative 9 then goes in my y spot. I now have my vertex of my parabola. If I want just the vertex, that's it. Negative 4, comma negative 9. However, I need to actually complete the parabola to graph it, so I need at least two other points to graph this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and plug in negative 3. When I do that, I'm going to get negative 3 times negative 3 is 9. 8 times negative 3 is negative 24 plus 7. Simplifying the operations, I get negative 15 plus 7, which is negative 8. And what that means is that's going to go in that spot. Doing the exact same thing before, on the other side for negative 5, we get 25 minus 40 plus 7, which also gives negative 8. What we did here is, by picking 2 points directly next to the parabola, because the parabola is on the axis of symmetry, meaning the line of symmetry for the parabola, if you go up 1 on the left side of the parabola at the negative 5, you should be going up 1 on the right side of the parabola at negative 8. This pattern of going up by 1 is something you'll notice a lot anytime it's just x squared. If we were to put, for example, like a 4x squared, then you should expect it to go up by 4 for 1 point next to it. This rule does not continue out. It's not like it goes up by 1 each time. It doesn't work that way. It's not a slope. It's not a line. The slope is always changing. However, when you pick the points directly next to the parabola, they will change by the same amount, and you'll notice that they change by 1 anytime it's just x squared. So now we're going to go ahead and graph it. The first thing we want to do is just write those points out of our t-chart. Okay, these are the x and y parts that came out of the t-chart I just filled out. Okay, remember, the first thing you need to do is label your axes. So I'm going to start with negative 4 and negative 9 because that's my vertex, and I'm going to plot that point. I'm then going to go ahead and plot negative 5 and negative 8 and plot that point. And finally negative 3, which is also at negative 8. After I do that, I try to draw a smooth curve, not a straight line, not a V shape, a smooth curve that goes through those parabolas as best I can. Through those points and creates a parabola. And that's it. Your parabola is graphed. Some teachers may require you to do 5 points. All that you would do is have 2 more points on your t-chart. You just go out by 2. You go to negative 2 and negative 6. Doesn't make it much more difficult. Alright, looking at our second example here. We're going to start off by doing negative b over 2a. So opposite of 2 is negative 2. Divided by 2 is negative 1. That means my points next to it are going to be 0 and negative 2. Okay, and I fill in my chart. Now, I absolutely always have to figure out the vertex. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to plug that in. 1 minus 2 minus 15, which is going to give me negative 16. If any of the math that I'm doing pretty quickly here, you want to pause it and kind of think it through and make sure you can follow it, that'd be a great idea. But this is the process. Okay, from there then, remember what we just noticed in the last one is because we pick points right next to it, we don't have to plug in both of them. We only have to plug in one. So I'm going to go ahead and start off with the bottom. I'm going to plug in 0. Okay, the reason I'm going to do that is because 0 is really easy to plug in, and I want to make this easy on myself. If I can pick either one, I'm going to pick the easier of the two. That's going to give me negative 15, which of course means the top must be negative 15. Never a bad idea to run through the math in your head. Okay, that's going to be negative 4. This is going to be, positive 4. This is going to be negative 4. Okay, and that's going to cancel out. All right, it's going to be negative 15. If you did something wrong, your values, like let's say you picked the wrong values next to your vertex, the y is going to be something kind of random. It probably won't go up by 1. It might go up by a large number. But basically what will happen is if you went and checked it on the other side, you would notice, oh man, there's no way it's going to come out to be 38 or whatever. And that would show you that you definitely picked the wrong things, because the only way you're going to get this symmetry, this mirror image, is if you pick the vertex and the 2 points next to it. All right, next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and plot the points. So what you can do is you can just label everything you need. I need negative 16, I need negative 15, etc. I'm going to start with my vertex, add in the 15, plot the points. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and fill in the parts I need to graph my vertex. And then I need negative 15 to graph the other 2 points. Now, as you guys can see, I ended up having to put a point that's in the middle of the line. That's not ideal, but when you're trying to plot 15 and 16 and you only have 10 spots on your line, you really don't have a lot of choice. I mean, you got to do what's going to work for you and what's going to make sense. From there, I draw a nice smooth curve, and there's my parabola. All right, moving on. Let's try one that's negative. Now, from what we know from before, what we should expect is we should expect it to be flipped over. So we should expect a flip, meaning an upside down parabola because it's negative. So we're going to start off with our opposite of b over 2a. Okay, the opposite of negative 6 is positive 6. A lot of people now put 3 in that spot. But what you have to remember is not only is this negative, but this is also negative right now. So I'm going to end up with positive 6, but over negative 2, which is again going to give me a negative 3. I'm going to pick the points next to it, and I'm going to plug everything in. I'm going to pick 2 to plug in. I have to do the vertex, but I can pick the other 2 to plug in. So I'm going to pick 2 because it seems easier, smaller number. So starting off with the vertex, negative 9 plus 18 plus 16. A lot of people make mistakes on these, so be very, very careful. A lot of people, what they do is they go ahead and they say, oh, that's 9. But you got to remember, first you do the exponent, which is 9, and then you put the minus sign on it. So you have to follow these steps and be very careful. Then that simplifies to 9 plus 16, which is 25. Again, picking the smaller of the two. I'm going to go ahead and pick negative 2 to plug in, which is going to give me negative 4 plus 12 plus 16, which is positive 24. So now I have my points. I'm going to transfer those over. And I'm now going to graph them. All the points I need, I'm going to plot on here, 24, 25. This one's really hard to graph because you have to kind of go by 5s to get 25 on there. But unfortunately, you can't. I mean, that means you're trying to put a 24 next to it, but there's supposed to be 5 marks in between the lines. There's not a lot you can do to control that sort of situation. You could say, you know what, I'm going to go by 3s, and 24 will fit neatly, but maybe 25 will be a little bit of the ways up. You don't have to be perfect right now. In a perfect scenario, you could probably make a much larger graph and go up 25 lines if you absolutely had to. Because, really when you do this, most of your parabola is up at the top. So when you're drawing your own lines someday on graph paper, you can make it go up to 25, but then on the bottom it doesn't have to go very high at all. So, all right, now we're going to plot those points, starting off with negative 325. All 3 points are present, and we're going to sketch our graph through the line. Okay, the last one we're going to look at is x squared plus 8x plus 16. Now what we're going to do is we're going to start off with the opposite of 8 is negative 8, divided by 2 is negative 4, picking the numbers next to it, negative 5 and negative 3, and then we're going to plot everything in. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and start off with the vertex. That's going to give me 16 minus 32 plus 16, which simplifies to be negative 16 plus 16, which is 0. What this means is that what we're looking at is the vertex, meaning this parabola hits, the vertex hits right on the x-axis. It's the x-intercept. So this is one of those special examples where the parabolas hit just at the tip of the parabola hits the line. From there then we're going to plug in one of the other two. I chose to plug in the bottom one because a little easier for me to multiply 3 than 5. So I'm going to get 9 minus 24 plus 16, which simplifies out to 1. So now we're going to transfer that over. All the points that are needed are right there. Plot the vertex, the other 2 points, and sketch my parabola. So I hope this gives you a quick refresher on how you go ahead and graph parabolas using 3 points. Again, this is not something maybe that every teacher will let you do. Some might require 5 points, some might require, the roots to be listed. But for us, we're just trying to graph a basic parabola, get the idea of some of the possible outcomes that can occur. One solution, no solution, infinitely many. One solution, no solution, 2 solutions. And also just some of the points of a parabola, such as the vertex. There's a line of symmetry dead center of it. Okay, it has a curved shape. Those are sort of the things that we want to pick up and leave this lesson with. So hopefully this helped you. Prepare for your final and look for the next video.